and welcome to the NBD Fancy Cookbook Show. I'm your host, Ben Mandelker, author of NBD Fancy, which hopefully you already knew that. And if you didn't, well, then go check out my Substack, nbdfancy.substack.com. I was hoping to come up with a really cute and fun and punny name for this nascent cookbook show, but I really didn't come up with one. Everything was just too cutesy. Everything was like too clever. And I decided I'm just going to call it the NBD Fancy Cookbook Show. And that's just where it is. And I thought for my inaugural episode of this, my first foray into video, I was going to talk about Hot Date, which I believe is my favorite cookbook of 2025. The author who did text and illustrations is Rawaan Alkhatib. I'm hoping I'm saying your name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. And this book is a wonderful book that I really want to deep dive here today on this very first video I'm doing for this series. So this entire format I'm trying out. It's going to get its own tweaks over time. It'll find its voice. It'll go in its own different directions. We'll see what happens. Let's get into Hot Date. So first and foremost, just it's the way it looks and the way it's presented is really amazing. First of all, you probably already know it has this vibrant pink trim. This is called edge to edge something. I looked up the term online. In publishing, there is a term for when you put color. Like a lot of times you'll see old books have gold. It's called edge to edge something another. Edge to edge color. Who knows? But I love that it has this pink trim because it's already kind of establishing a tone that this book is not going to be austere. It's not going to be serious. I love a serious and austere cookbook, but sometimes cookbooks can get like a little bit up their own ass when they are single ingredient. It's like, oh, the almighty eggplant. It does so much and it's so important for so many cultures. And it's like, okay, we get it. That's fine. But like, just give me some eggplant recipes, right? And I like that Al-Khatib is just like, we're going to have fun with this. I'm calling it Hot Date with an exclamation point. We're going to lean into the fun of a date. So even before you open up this book, it's already establishing a tone, right? Like, because other books may have like a single image of a date and like a serif font that's like the date or something, or medjool, and then you're like, oh, I have to speak quietly as I open up this book. This one says, no, we're going to have fun. This is a fun fruit and it's going to be a fun book, which I love. So look at this Hot Date. It's just like, it's party. And look at this font is almost like rounded. It's very close to like a balloon text. I don't know. It's so silly. You just wouldn't expect it. Beautiful photography. Right here from the beginning, you can see already like a very inviting image of this is just a bowl of dates and then lots of dates around the dates. It's just cheeses and everything. I mean, I am obsessed with dates. I love them. I'm always buying little containers of them, doing date shakes all the time. So what I love about this book, this picture is just ridiculous. I love that she did this. It's 4 dates piled on top of an orange that's split in half. That's piled on top of it. Like, this is just silly, but I love it. It's intriguing. So what's great about this book is that we start with, it's an illustrated guide to some key date varieties. So we learn about all these different types of dates. And there's even this wonderful, sort of like this guide. It's an illustration, that shows different types of dates. Deglet Noors. I've seen those a lot at the supermarket. I often see Deglet Noors, Baris at the farmer's market, and then medjewels, which are in here somewhere. I'm sure I can't read it upside down. Medjewel. There may be another page. Nope, there's not. But I could swear here it is. There's more. There's just more images. Here we go. Still no medjewels, but lots of dates. I'm going to read the bio here. Rawaan Alkhatib is a cook, writer, and artist of Palestinian and Indian descent. She was born and raised in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, where she experienced firsthand the warmth and generosity of a date-centric culture. She holds an MFA in poetry from the Iowa Writers Workshop. When she's not working full-time at a museum exhibit design studio, she creates work across a variety of mediums, including writing, painting, textile design, and of course, food. She lives in Brooklyn with a spouse and a child. Already, what we know about the author is that she's not only someone who works in the world of food, but she works in art in general, which explains why there's this book is full of lush photography, and the photography is by Linda Zhao. Like, there's beautiful photography, but there's also all these wonderful illustrated elements, small things, sometimes just some macaroni, some dried macaroni, or maybe a jar of preserved lemons. Here's a lovely image of some scallop shells. She'll have sort of larger meditations. Here's just like a passage that she quotes that she also illustrates. So she wrote it down here, and there's an illustration here. Yes, it's recipes about dates, and there's some information about dates, but it's also kind of wants to take you into like the historical and cultural significance of the date in a way that's just really inviting. Here is this great page here, ancient Egyptian tiger nut cakes from the tomb of Rekhmir. And it's just like, this is actually a recipe. It's a recipe from Egypt. So she illustrated this and then wrote down the recipe. And it's just like fun little elements like this that just kind of want to make you pour all over this. I love this. This is a map of the Coachella Valley here in California. I'm in LA. And the Coachella Valley is over by Palm Springs. And this is like, I think like the major source of dates in the US. And there's lots of date farms, etc. over here. And shame on me, I've never been to any of them, and I've always wanted to go out there. Maybe I should after getting this book. But like here you can see a map of like the Highway 10, the 10, and there's the Coachella Valley and Indio, Palm Desert, and she points out where the different farms are. In fact, a lot of times the dates that I get at the farmers market come from Aziz Family Farms, which is right here on this map. So it's just like overflowing with interesting information. Like, she loves this subject so much, and she can't help but pour out on all the pages, which I absolutely love about all of this. More functionally, here's something I want more cookbooks to do. A lot of them do this, but like I want more and more and more of it. Suggested menus. I love a suggested menu. I love something that kind of gives me a head start of which direction I should go. Because a lot of times I'll find a recipe that I really want to make, and I'm like, what should I make with that? And here you go. It would be great if, in just cookbooks in general, that if you have a suggested menu area, that if you start with like a menu, an item like your roasted carrots with date butter, that there might be an instant cross reference to X menu on page whatever. I just think that stuff really helps as a user, someone who's always looking for inspiration. So I love that she has suggested menus. She has where to shop in here, so places where you can get your dates, maybe import them, get them on the internet, etc. In terms of the format of the book, I'm really big on cookbook format. So this is my first video. This will be the first and probably not the last time I have this soapbox rant. I really appreciate a cookbook whose format is a breakfast, lunch, dinner, appetizers, entrees kind of format. Tell me like what type of dish it is. What I hate is a cookbook whose format is geographical. So like if it's usually like, oh, welcome to the flavors of Mexico, and it's like the North, the West, the South. That's nice. And like the quote unquote scholar in me appreciates that. Oh, I can read this cookbook and learn about these regions, which is important. But also like I need to make dinner. And if like one dinner option is on page 63 and another one is on 217, because like here's the dinner section for the West and here's the dinner section for the East, that drives me absolutely bonkers. To me, it's like a very like authory thing to do, or like a cookbook editor thing to do, that does not really think about the consumer. And I think it's really important that ultimately we are using these to cook things. We're trying to make dinner. We're going to dinner parties. We're going to potlucks. I need to know where the desserts are. Like if I see a dessert that's listed on page 73 and then that's followed by an appetizer, I'm gonna get mad. I'm not gonna throw out the book, but I'll get mad, and I probably will reach for it less. So with that rant aside, by the way, look at these dates. Look. That rant aside, I'm happy to announce that the format of this book is blissfully normal. Okay, so the format is, welcome to the Oasis. That's when you learn about the date, which is really cool. It's good reading. Fun fact, I bought this book at the Book Larder in Seattle, Washington, a great cookbook store, wonderful cookbook store. And then I hopped on a plane the next day and I read this on the entire flight back down to LA. And it was just like the best. I was just sitting there reading a cookbook on a plane. I highly recommend cookbooks on planes. It's great reading. Okay, the chapters are party food, breakfast, mains, soup, salads, and sides, sweets, drinks, and condiments. This is what an index should be. Like, I know immediately, oh, I want something interesting for breakfast. I go to the breakfast section. This is how it should be. My friend loves when you actually can see the recipes listed in the table of contents, which is always nice, but this is okay. This format's good too. So I really, really appreciate it. Look at this. The many forms of the date. Anatomy of a date palm. You really learn so much. You learn about the different stages of ripeness of a date. You learn like how long it takes for a date palm to grow and start bearing fruit. Like, you really learn a lot in this book. And again, I think the reason why you learn a lot is because there's all these interactive elements, like quote unquote interactive. It's not like it's a book. You can only be so interactive. But all these diagrams and info charts and whatever, they're just fun to look at. So I love the way that this is presented. I love the art. I love the structure. And I had to say, before I get into the recipes, you can tell this is someone who went to the Iowa Writers Workshop, which is one of the most elite writing workshops in the country, because the header for every single recipe is just like a joy to read. She is, Alkhatib is, by the way, I'm not saying her name as much because I just don't know how to pronounce it. And I would feel terrible if I just keep on mispronouncing her last name over and over and over again in this video. So that's why I keep on saying this author, and I apologize. But she has a real grasp of language, and she has a sense of humor that is very wry. I actually feel like it's a friend. I love a cookbook that feels like a friend talking to you. There's just a way that she can communicate something, Actually, one complaint I do have is that the text is very small and very hard to read. I wish they could have gone a little bigger. There's a lot of open space, like usually like this, and I understand it makes the page layout feel more breathable and open, but like a larger font would have been lovely. Also, this is just more on the quibble side. I love a recipe that's broken down by bullet point or by number. When it's sort of like a block of prose, I often get lost in it and I have to come back to it. And when it's small like this, it is really difficult. So I would love larger font that's broken up a little bit more. Anywho, I'm here to talk about the headers for some recipes. So let me pull a random recipe out. Just this. Okay, here's one. Here's a random one. Salted halwa or halva brownie cookies. A salty, chocolatey joy storm with clouds of halva and little lightning bolts of chewy dates sprinkled throughout. Make these for someone you love, parentheses, who loves chocolate, close parentheses. It's just a small paragraph, and it just is lovely little writing, right? A chocolatey joy storm with clouds of halwa. I'm assuming halwa is halva, but clouds of halva and little lightning bolts of chewy date. I mean, it's so evocative, and I just love this little wry joke at the end, which is like, make this for someone who you love, parentheses, who also loves chocolate, because some people don't love chocolate. I think the writing here is just wonderful. Like this is one of, I think, the best written cookbooks I have, just in terms of striking a tone that's enjoyable, that's witty, that's sharp. So for that alone, it's really great. But now it's time to talk about the recipes. Let's talk about the recipes I've made, and let's talk about the recipes I would like to make. So I've made a bunch from this book. Maybe you can see the tabs that are on the side here. So the first thing that I made here was tater tots tossed in hot date butter. Hot date butter. Hot date has an exclamation point. There's sort of like a weird branding happening here, like hot date butter, hot date exclamation point, because it's the book. These are just tater tots, and it's a compound butter that's on another page. I don't love sub recipes, but I'm gonna let it slide here. Hot date butter. This is butter that is mixed with garlic, dates, Parmesan cheese, herbs, lemon zest, salt and pepper. It's a really lovely compound butter and tossed with the tater tots. It's great. I made this for my partner's birthday party back in June, and this was gone in about a second. It was gone in a second. And in fact, it was actually this recipe that pivoted me towards getting this book. I was reading a Substack and they mentioned this book and they said, yeah, the tater tots tossed in hot date butter is a revelation. So that, of course, was the first thing I had to try, and gone in 60 seconds. Okay, okay, now let's move on to, God, there's so much. There's like a ants on a log. Oh, this one I want to make so badly. Crispy sauteed dates on a saffron cloud. It's basically like you make a focaccia and you put dates and like a saffron and ricotta cheese. The only reason why I haven't made this is because I have like at least 3 friends and my partner who are lactose intolerant. So like dairy stuff is kind of hard for me to table, which is sad. Look at this. I'm sorry. I just love it. This is just what is this? It's just like a list. It's like a table. It's like, here's a table of appetizers you could put out. Like, why not? Why not just throw this in here? We have lots of party food, which I really appreciate. I think having party food in a cookbook is really important because a lot of times I feel like I'm often entertaining. So let's go into the breakfast chapter. Cassava or Cupid's omelet. So my friend Judy made this one. This one is really unexpected. It's an omelet with like a crown of dates on it. And we were both intrigued by this because you mix with the eggs, you mix cinnamon and ginger, ground ginger, walnuts, and dates. And I'm thinking actually, no, you don't mix the dates in there. The dates are on top. But still, eggs with cinnamon and ginger and walnut halves in an omelet topped with dates. I was like, what does that taste like? Well, here, Al-Khatib says like this has the same salt, sweet, eggy satisfaction as French toast and makes a lovely and sustaining breakfast on a cold morning. And I have to say, that's exactly correct. It tastes like French toast. It tastes like French toast without the bread. If you just had the batter and you just made an omelet out of it and topped it with dates. And guess what? It works. It's so good. It's so good. You have that warming flavor of the cinnamon and the sweetness in the eggy batter and then the dates. And it really, really works. This omelet has roots in Iran and Iraq. And I think depending on where the root goes to, you're going to call it either cassava or Cupid's omelet. Either way, it's really delicious. It's a really lovely choice. Okay, that was in the breakfast chapter. Also, just a page later, we have eggy breakfast sandwiches with date and olive tapenade. No picture. I was drawn to this one because it's a breakfast sandwich that takes a tapenade, an olive, and it's olives and dates, Kalamata olives and brine and mustard. That's the tapenade. And then it mixes, and then you put the tapenade on bread. I was drawn to this one because of the combination of flavors. I was like, how does this work? So first you have a tapenade that's with Kalamata olives, dates, mustard, and some other items. And then you have the sandwich where first you saute some poblano peppers and some onions, and then you assemble it. What you do is you put on like a soft brioche kind of bread, you're going to put the tapenade and then the onions and peppers, and then you're going to fry an egg and put that on top, and then a slice of cheddar cheese. Maybe the cheddar cheese goes on top of the egg. I don't remember. It doesn't matter really. Basically, tapenade, onions, peppers, egg, cheddar. And then you close down the sandwich, and then the yolk runs everywhere, and all this yellow stuff gets everywhere. And I was like, what is this going to taste like? I absolutely loved this recipe. It's salty, it's sweet, it's briny, it's rich. The yolk makes it smooth and luxurious and velvety, but the Kalamata punches through with these sharp moments, and the mustard as well. And then the onion is actually sweet, and the date is obviously sweet. So there's like a million flavors happening all at once. I made this so many times because the batch of tapenade you wind up making a lot of tapenade, and you wind up making a lot of onions and peppers with this recipe. So I wound up making this breakfast sandwich I think like at least 5, if not 8 times. Oh my God. I loved it. I think it's actually low-key my favorite recipe in this book, which is funny. It's just a breakfast sandwich, but it's so good. Beef and pistachio meatballs. Here we have some lovely meatballs. This is another variation on, sort of the Middle Eastern meatball genre. We've had a lot of keftes. I've had I've made and I've had several of these kind of meatballs that involve warming spices like allspice, cloves, or ginger, or anything like that. Usually, like maybe some like almonds in them or pistachios. So we have the kind of a variation of that here. A lot of times it's with lamb. These are with beef, and of course there's dates in there. And these, of course, they're delicious. I mean, cinnamon. There's usually cinnamon. These have tons of little spices in them, all that kind of stuff. There's pistachios, jalapenos, paprika, and they are very sweet though, which I liked. But I know that I can imagine some people might say these are a little bit too sweet. Like some people are a little bit sensitive to sweetness with their savory stuff. So if that's you, maybe not like the best, or maybe you cut back on a little bit of the dates. But I thought this was absolutely delicious. I really love those meatballs. They were great. So we're in the vegetable section now, and here we have butter roasted radishes. And this one I was drawn to because it involves anchovies, dates, garlic, capers, lemon, radishes, parsley. And you're basically roasting radishes. You make like this mixture of all those things, and then you coat the radishes with them. And I was like, how is that going to taste? Which is like what I said with every recipe, basically. How's that going to work? This one was really good. The mixture that you apply was delicious. The only thing is that I got really hoity-toity, and I went to the farmer's market and I got these beautiful but very large watermelon radishes. And I just don't think like this recipe was made for those. They just didn't get tender enough. And then like the leaves, there was like so many leaves, and I don't know. I remember like I oddly don't remember this recipe well, except that like I feel like something went wrong, and that the choice of doing this like a fancy radish was sort of like got in the way. But I mean, this seems to have room for all types of radishes. I just felt like I needed to cook it longer or something. I felt like I messed that one up, but I liked it in theory. Mushrooms en papillote with much garlic. This one was very appealing to us. So my friends Matt and AJ made this. This one is a kind of crazy. It calls for 2 pounds of assorted mushrooms. And like if you get like a typical canister or a container of mushrooms, that's usually like 3 ounces. So we're looking at like 32 ounces of mushrooms. That's crazy. And then what's also weird is those are fresh ones. And then it called for 1 to 2 dried porcini mushrooms. So that ratio is like a little strange. Like you're going to get 32 ounces, like a giant mound of fresh mushrooms, and then put two dried mushrooms in there. Like it's sort of something felt a little strange about this. So Matt and AJ made this, and what you're supposed to do is put all the mushrooms and other things like thyme and butter into like, you overlap a whole bunch of parchment paper, and then you put the mushrooms in and you tie it all up in the center, and then you have just the giant pouch that you roast. They said they couldn't fit all the mushrooms in the pouch. They had to do 2 pouches, which has me wondering if maybe this recipe is like there's an error here, because it also calls for only 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon of salt for 2 pounds of mushrooms is legitimately crazy. 1 teaspoon of salt for 2 pounds of anything is crazy. So given that it's 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 to 2 dried porcini mushrooms are in this mix, but then 2 pounds of mushrooms, I have to imagine like maybe this recipe started at like a 2-pound mushroom situation and then was scaled down, and maybe the publisher forgot to revise that. So it seems like that should definitely be like 1 pound, or maybe even like half a pound of mushrooms. I'm really not sure. I would love to try this again because the concept of it seems great, like mushrooms and dates and all that. Like, and it tasted nice, but it tasted under seasoned because the call for salt is so low. So love to revisit this one, but this is the only one that felt like it was not quite right of all the recipes that we tried. I can't tell you how many of these recipes I still want to try. Oh, I really want to make this one as well. Shaved celery salad with spiced date chili crisp. I love a celery salad. And I have made that chili crisp. That is farther back here in the book. Now, this is an interesting one. This is sort of like in the condiments section. Spiced date chili crisp. For those who don't know, chili crisp is a condiment that it's been around, for ages in other cultures, but in America, it's starting to really kind of, pop up in big box stores. I think it has Southeast Asian origins. I apologize, I'm not fully up to date on its history, but essentially it's like oil, chili flakes, other seasonings, etc. Fly by Jing is a very, very popular brand right now, and a lot of cookbooks and a lot of food writers are coming out with their own versions of chili oil, or I'm sorry, chili crisps. So, which is different than chili oil. Chili oil is just oil, but chili crisp has like stuff in it. Spiced date chili crisp has chili flakes, chili powder, nutritional yeasts, smoked paprika, orange zest, sugar, cumin seeds, turmeric, cinnamon, fennel seeds, salt, dried mushrooms, or MSG powder. I used MSG powder because, yes, I actually have MSG powder. Olive oil, garlic cloves, fresh ginger, slivered almonds, pepitas, fried shallots, dates. I mean, this is a lineup. And I was like, what is this going to taste like? Well, this was very interesting. It's delicious. It's not like other chili crisps I've had because some of these spices, like cinnamon, sort of moved it more towards the Middle Eastern space a little bit, which I loved. I think it's great. Like, why not have kind of a Middle Eastern inflected chili crisp? So this was a wonderful condiment that is still in my fridge, and I was just looking at it earlier today and thinking I should put it on something. From the dessert section, the spice root molasses cookies. Matt and AJ made these as well. I just want to say that these cookies have 3 tablespoons of ground ginger. This is like, I'm telling you, these cookies were like punches in the face, but like delicious, wonderful punches in the face. Like, you would think it would be too much, but what happens, you take a bite and you get this like pow of ginger, and then it subsides and you have all these spices and flavors that sort of like rush in, and it works. I can't believe this much ginger is not oppressive, but it's so good. I made this one chocolate sorbet with warm salted dates. So let's talk about this one. This one is a great recipe, and here's why. The number one chocolate sorbet recipe for me comes from David Leibovitz from the cookbook, The Perfect Scoop. It's just incomparable. It's just dark and rich and stormy and wonderful. This one was also excellent. I have not looked at the recipes side by side. I think they're probably very, very similar. I think in both, you're melting chocolate into sort of like a sugar water composition and then freezing it, right? But in this one, you have the added thing of that there's date molasses in there. So the ultimate end product is a deeply rich chocolatey sorbet, just like David Leibovitz's. But there is like another kind of X factor flavor that I guess I can't tell. I can't tell if I like it better or not. I like the purity of David Leibovitz's, but I love the depth of flavor that comes with this date molasses that's in here that adds kind of another vibration of sweetness. I don't know what other word to say, but it's just sort of like there's a lot of flavors that are at play here that are in the sort of the bitter and sweet area, and it works very well. I had one issue with this, which is that I had to use crappy chocolate. When I went shopping, I forgot to get chocolate, and I happened to have some old baker's chocolate in my pantry, so I used that, and then I think a combination of bad chocolate and then maybe I didn't let it cool down properly. It had a very powdery finish, which was strange, and I looked it up on the internet, and sorbets can have powdery finishes if like there's the melt, if you melt things incorrectly. So just heads up, don't use crappy chocolate. Let's get back to the date part beyond the molasses, the warm salted dates. On the next page, there is a little recipe for warm salted dates. And the idea is that you make these and put it on top of your sorbet. So what are warm salted dates? Basically, what you do is you put some olive oil into a little skillet, and you take 2 dates per serving, cut them both in half, obviously take the pits out, and then you heat up the olive oil, and then you put the dates in, cut side down into the olive oil, and warm them up a little bit. You don't want them to burn, you just want them to warm up. And then you pour the olive oil and the dates onto the ice cream or the sorbet. Why is this not a topping in every ice cream store? This was so delicious, and I'll tell you why. The dates are inherently delicious. They're very sweet. The heat makes them sweeter because, let's be honest, you get dates in the supermarket, they may not always be great. But it also like sort of caramelizes the cut underside, like that underside that's making contact with the oil sort of crisps up. So then when you put it in the ice cream, you have the date, which has become really soft and mushy almost. And then you have this crisp edge that was touching the oil, and already you have this contrast of flavors. And then as the ice cream cools down the dates, the mushy date becomes almost chewy. So there's all sorts of flavors going on. Never mind the fact that the date themselves have this sweetness that goes really beautifully with the ice cream. Never mind the fact that the olive oil, which now has taken on some date flavors, adds like this beautifully fatty topping flavor. So it kind of has a vibe temperature-wise of hot fudge, but it's not fudge, it's dates. It's such a genius little ice cream condiment. And I'm going to be playing with that a lot, whether it's on sorbet or not. I mean, probably just vanilla ice cream would be wonderful. Chocolate ice cream. I don't know why we in the States are not adding more warm dates onto things. Lastly, because we were being completionists, I was like, well, we're doing something from every chapter. Why don't we make a beverage? So here is Jallab. Jallab. It's very simple. Date molasses, rose water, crushed ice, pine nuts, and golden raisins. Now, I was a little nervous. Rose water can be so strong. It can turn everything into like perfume. And also like pine nuts in a beverage. I've never had that before. Oh my God. This was wonderful. It kind of had it had a subtle sweetness to it. It was not very overpowering. It kind of like reminded me of like a lightly sweetened iced tea in that sense. The pine nuts, as they sit there soaking in the jallab, they soften. Their pine nuts are already pretty soft, but they soften. So when they come up the straw, because she recommends drinking this with a straw, when they come up the straw, they sort of enter your mouth and they're kind of like this lovely, like bitsy thing you can sort of chew on before you swallow. And the raisins too. It was such a good drink. We made a giant pitcher of these, and I'm going to make more of it. The jallab was an absolutely lovely and refreshing beverage, and I can't wait to have more of it. Oh, tangy sesame shrimp. My friend Judy made the tangy sesame shrimp. This one was more of a Southeast Asian recipe. The shrimp is prepared with like fish sauce and soy sauce, and you're thinking, how do dates work into that? In this case, you steep the dates in hot water and until they soften, and then you actually you sort of puree them. So it becomes this like sweet date puree that you mix these other things like soy sauce and fish sauce with. And if you think about it, it's not very different from making something like, soy sauce, fish sauce, dark, like sugar, brown sugar or something like that, to make kind of like a very standard Southeast Asian condiment. So here the puree date kind of steps in for the brown sugar. Although there may be some other sugar to actually help fortify it a little bit. There is some sugar. There is. So either way, the point is this makes a very sweet and savory shrimp dish that we all really enjoyed quite a bit. So, I mean, clearly I really have nothing but raves about this book. My only drawbacks is there was that one mushroom recipe that seemed a little janky and the font's too small. And if that's really all you can come away with, then that's a really good sign. This is a wonderful gift. I think a single ingredient book can be very difficult. It can feel very gimmicky. This one does not feel gimmicky. This one is very inviting. It actually shows off the versatility of a very small fruit and how it really can work in so many different contexts and dishes and cultures. Because yes, there are a lot of Middle Eastern dishes in here, but as I just mentioned, you can go Southeast Asian, you can go Mediterranean, you can really go in so many different directions. And it's very exciting to see the way the date can operate in that way. And it does not feel like a one-trick pony. This is one that you want to experiment with and play with because ultimately dates are awesome. And who wouldn't want one tucked away in their food? So yeah, hot date, a high recommend for me. Thanks everyone for being here on this first ever NBD fancy cookbook. I don't even remember what I called this. Cookbook club, cookbook video, whatever I'm calling this video. Welcome, the cookbook show. I'm really bad at this. Well, thank you for coming to the first ever NBD Fancy Cookbook Show. I'm hoping to cover more books, but honestly, I'm going to talk about some cookbooks that I've only tried a few things in, or maybe I've tried nothing, and I'll just talk about what I was drawn to in them. It's just about sharing a love of cookbooks and pouring through these pages and seeing what's appealing about these books. But this one, big recommend over here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode.